Hey guys, Julie here. I'm assuming you already know what this video is about because, well, you clicked on it. So let's just dive right in. No messing around. So I woke up last Wednesday and around 9 a.m. I decided that I would spend a bit of the day attempting to make homemade crayons. It was a really random notion to wake up to, and honestly, I didn't think I had any more DIY art supply videos in my roster, but this one just kind of hit me out of nowhere, so I figured, why the heck not? A while back, I went through a bit of a DIY skincare phase, so I already had some beeswax. I also still have a ton of pigment powder left from my watercolor making endeavors, and some essential oils, because who doesn't want scented crayons? There was a video on making homemade crayons by a channel called Large Family Mama, and I'll link it down below for reference. I was under the impression that you could use a combination of beeswax and food coloring, and that really excited me because, who doesn't have food coloring in their cupboard? I just thought this project was so accessible, so I was really excited to dive in. Although, I'm a terrible viewer because I failed to watch her video in its entirety and didn't realize that she not only added equal portions of grated bar soap and beeswax, but also used a type of gel food coloring. I used 100% beeswax, no soap, and I only had the water-based form of food coloring. And as anyone with an ounce of common sense would realize, wax and water simply don't mix. And of course, I learned this the blonde way. So after some basic research, which honestly I should have done before I started filming, to make crayons, you need to use some sort of oil-based pigment or any sort of pigment that dissolves in wax. So I made two different types of crayons. One batch using my store-bought pigment powder, and the second using oil pastels. I prefer creating supplies from scratch rather than relying on other supplies, which kind of defeats the purpose for me. But I figure that oil pastels are incredibly affordable and widely accessible. If you have kids, there's a chance you'll already have some at home, and if you're a grown artist, there's also a high chance that you'll have some kicking around too. One thing I didn't try, but I'm confident that it would work as well, is using crushed soft pastels. I've molded soft pastels into watercolor binder and it worked perfectly. Cough cough, link in description. So I don't think there would be an issue mixing crushed pastels as pigment powder with the beeswax. The great thing about making your own supplies is that they don't have to follow any specific conventions. In this case, you can make your crayons in any shape or size imaginable. Given my DIY skincare phase, I had a ton of empty lip balm tubes that worked perfectly for me. You could even create your own mold using rolled up paper and tape or even aluminum foil. And I'll link to a few videos from fellow crayon making connoisseurs down below for more ideas. The steps are quite simple. Melt down your beeswax. If your wax is in a large block, it's best to grate it down first. Then add your pigments. Not gonna lie, watching the oil pastel melt into the beeswax is satisfying as heck. And because there was no point to melt a single oil pastel into wax, just to come out with the same color except in crayon form, I mixed them up a bit. So I used the pigment from a couple different pastels, mixed them together, and infused them into the beeswax. Once everything looked well incorporated, I just added a few drops of lemon essential oil, just for that fun little kick. The whole process took about an hour and a half. Out of this, I ended up making 8 crayons in total. If I were you, I'd probably just take 45 minutes out of my day to hit up Walmart and use the remaining 45 minutes to watch an episode of New Amsterdam or something. That would probably be a much better use of your time. This process was messy, and I minorly burnt myself a few times, so definitely wear heat-proof gloves throughout. The pigment powder also fused into the beeswax very nicely. My only regret is that I should have used more pigment powder since the color was looking pretty weak, and you'll see this when I begin to swatch my crayons out. I quite enjoy making art supplies, and this was a really neat experience. although I don't use crayons on a regular basis. So after today, they'll probably end up just sitting in my room. Believe me, I've spent hours upon hours creating different forms of watercolors, inks, and even handmade paper. But these are supplies that I've used more than once. Crayons, on the other hand, don't really fall into this category. So I'm not quite sure if it was worth the time invested into it. But I could see homemade crayons being something fun to make for your kids, nieces, nephews, cousins, etc. Note, do not make them with kids because again, I burnt myself a few times and I'm pretty clumsy, but fair warning, this tutorial is for adults only. Anyways, being as extra as I am, I decided to wrap the crayons in brown paper and washi tape. That way they looked way more kawaii. I felt like a total hippie making my own art supplies out of beeswax, and it was a nice feeling overall. Then it was time to swatch them out. Some colors were a bit more vibrant than others. The gray and light blue turned out much less pigmented than I expected. Both of these crayons were made using the store-bought pigment powder. So I'd have to give a gold medal to those made with melted oil pastels. The ones that I made using pastels laid a sliver more smoothly on the paper in comparison. Hey guys, so I have my lovely crayons here, and of course I decided to just be a little extra and wrap them up and put like cute little washi tape on them. Even though they look kind of like nasty, I thought I'd make them a little cuter. So we're gonna test this out and we're going to, you know what, let me divvy this up. Here, so these 4 here are crayons that were made using the oil pastels, and then these 4, oh, you know what? No, here. There we go. And then these 4 were made using the actual pigment powder. So we'll see how they work here. And I haven't used crayons in a while, so I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really remember what they're supposed to feel like. Let me zoom in. Okay, so this was yellow ochre using the actual pigment powder. Not bad. And then we have, I don't know, I think this was, no, not burnt sienna. This one here was bohemian red. I think I probably could have used a bit more pigment powder. But yeah, still like not bad.
There's the blue, and then this black color, or this gray color. Oh yeah, I definitely could have used more pigment powder here. Okay. Now we have the chalk, or the oil pastel. Okay, yeah, that's a lot better. Purple. Ooh, oh, I like this. This one's very smooth. Then we have the last one here. Oh yeah, that's nice. That is like butter. So these here are my swatches. And they smell like orange or lemon. You can really smell them.
Okay guys, look at this. I ran some paint thinner over it and oh my god, it totally blended like really beautifully. Let me do it with this color here. I mean, it's not perfect, but for crayons, not too shabby. Then of course came the crippling thought that I would have to create an art piece with these crayons, because y'all know I wouldn't just leave you guys hanging without a demo. A YouTuber named Echo Gillette posted a video a while back called "You Didn't Know Crayons Could Do This." In this video, she laid crayons down on an art piece and actually scraped off the wax, which left the pigment behind, so it laid nice and flat. So this is definitely a technique you could use to make your own crayon art look less like you use crayons, I guess. I didn't follow this tutorial. I instead went straight for some paint thinner to see how the crayons would react. Turns out it worked pretty well to blend the crayons into the paper. This is definitely not one of my best pieces. It's not a style that I typically draw in, and obviously crayons are not a medium that I take seriously. So take this demo with a grain of salt. This was drawn on Canson mixed media paper, which has a little bit of tooth to it, but a tasteful amount, not too much. I colored in the line art and added a layer of paint thinner over top of the crayon with a paintbrush. Then decided to color again over top of that. What ended up happening was the paint thinner seemed to change the quality of the crayons, so when I went over the piece a second time, it actually removed the wax that was already sitting on the paper. So I guess the end result was identical to what Echo suggested in her video. So that's basically it. You came here to learn how to make crayons and left with an entire life story. This video could have easily been like 3 minutes long, but I somehow managed to blab on. The question I like to answer, and mind you, no one actually asked me this, I just like to put it out there, is would you do this again? My answer for once is no. Not with crayons at least. I do want to learn how to make watercolor blocks or even woodless watercolor pencils. And you know what? Even making regular colored pencils would be cool. So playing with wax and a mold here was a good warm-up, I guess. I have no idea where to start with these other supplies, but if I figure it out, I'll definitely film the process. So I suppose the DIY art supply saga continues. Thank you so much for stopping by and sticking through till the end. As usual, subscribe, like, unsubscribe, dislike, do whatever your beautiful little heart desires. And until next time, stay creative. Peace.